A premier luxury jewelry boutique is supposed to represent the height of elegance, fine craftsmanship, and genuine hospitality, a sanctuary where patrons step inside to celebrate milestones, purchase family heirlooms, and receive warm, professional service. But for one senior boutique director, customer service was never something given freely. It was a privilege strictly reserved for individuals who looked wealthy before they had uttered a single sentence. A young woman wearing a plain beige canvas work apron over a dark sweater, casual denim trousers, and practical leather sneakers walked into the city's most prestigious diamond shop. She had spent her morning working in her private design studio and walked quietly up to the central glass display to view a custom-cut solitaire ring. The boutique manager glanced at her paint-dusted sleeve, offered a cold, mocking smirk, and informed her that the custom diamond collection was strictly reserved for serious buyers with pre-cleared accounts. He then pointed toward a costume jewelry stall in the local shopping arcade, suggesting she would find something more suited to her budget over there. What he didn't know was that the woman he had just casually dismissed had finalized a multi-million-dollar real estate transaction less than 6 hours earlier, making her the sole owner of the historic building, the commercial lease, and the parent property trust that held the jewelry store's master lease agreement. Before we get into the full story, comment down below where you are watching from today, and subscribe to Silent Empire so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get into it. Vanderbilt Fine Jewels had occupied the ground floor of the historic Grand Arcade for nearly 40 years. It was widely regarded as the ultimate destination for rare gemstones, custom bridal bands, and investment-grade diamonds. The boutique featured imported velvet showcases, bulletproof display cases, and warm chandelier lighting that made every diamond sparkle like a star. For the past 12 years, the showroom floor was managed by a man named Gregory Hayes. Gregory considered himself a master evaluator of wealth. He often boasted to his junior staff that he could accurately estimate a person's net worth within 5 seconds of watching them step over the brass threshold. In Gregory's worldview, true financial standing always announced itself loudly. It arrived in tailored Italian wool coats, designer handbags, and gold watches. Anyone who stepped through the glass doors wearing simple, functional clothes was, in Gregory's mind, a waste of time, someone taking up space and distracting his staff from closing lucrative high-commission sales. What Gregory failed to realize was that real, enduring wealth rarely feels the need to put on a show. And nobody embodied that quiet truth better than Maya Sterling. Maya was 32 years old, the daughter of a legendary fine art restorer and real estate investor who had spent decades quietly acquiring historical commercial properties across the region. Maya had inherited her family's sharp business instincts, along with a deep passion for art and design. She spent most of her days working quietly in her private restoration studio, restoring antique oil paintings and designing custom silverwork. Despite managing a real estate portfolio worth tens of millions, Maya lived with complete humility. She preferred comfortable clothes, drove an unpretentious hatchback, and often wore her utility apron while running afternoon errands between studio sessions. To anyone who didn't know her name, she looked like an ordinary local art teacher. At 3:15 p.m. on a crisp Wednesday afternoon, Maya walked through the heavy glass doors of Vanderbilt Fine Jewels. She carried only a simple leather portfolio under her arm. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly, her beige work apron had faint traces of dry linseed oil from her studio, and her sneakers were clean but clearly well worn. She stood near the central display island, quietly admiring a vintage 5-carat emerald-cut diamond ring showcased on velvet. Gregory Hayes adjusted his silk tie, smoothed the lapels of his charcoal suit, and walked over. He didn't offer a greeting or a smile. Instead, he stood on the opposite side of the counter with an expression of sharp disapproval. "May I help you find the exit?" Miss Gregory asked, his tone laced with cold, condescending formality. Or perhaps you dropped something near our entrance. Maya looked up, her expression calm and composed. Good afternoon. I'm actually looking to inspect the cut and clarity on the emerald cut band in this case. I'd like to see it under the loupe if possible. Gregory let out a quiet, dismissive laugh, the kind meant to make a customer feel instant embarrassment. Inspect the emerald cut, Gregory repeated, leaning slightly over the case. Miss, I don't think you realize what you're asking to see. That piece is a rare internally flawless diamond valued at $85,000. It is held exclusively for our private registry clients. I am well aware of the specifications, Maya replied calmly. And I am asking to examine the diamond. Gregory's smile vanished completely, replaced by a stern, impatient glare. Let's be completely candid with each other, miss. I have been managing high-end jewelry stores for over a decade. Our client base consists of prominent executives and collectors. We do not open locked display cases for visitors in paint-stained aprons who are simply window shopping. He gestured toward the glass arcade doors. There is a fashion accessories booth near the street corner. They sell synthetic stones that I'm sure would fit your daily budget much better. Maya didn't flinch. You haven't asked for my name, my credentials, or my account history. You've simply decided based on my apron that I cannot afford to stand in this room. I don't need a name to recognize when someone is completely out of their depth, Gregory said, lowering his voice into a stern command. Now, I must ask you to step away from the display case. We are expecting a high-value client in 5 minutes, and your presence is disrupting the ambience of our showroom. Before Gregory could signal his security guard, the double brass doors at the main entrance swung open. A tall, distinguished man in a dark tailored suit stepped into the showroom, followed by 2 senior corporate legal advisors carrying thick leather briefcases. It was Richard Vance, the regional chief executive officer of the Jewelry Parent Corporation, looking visibly frantic. Gregory's eyes widened in surprise. He immediately abandoned his post at the counter and hurried across the marble floor with a wide, welcoming grin. Mr. Vance. What an unexpected honor. Gregory said, bowing his head slightly. We were not informed of an executive inspection today. Please, allow me to escort you to the private VIP lounge. Richard Vance didn't even acknowledge Gregory's hand. His eyes scanned the showroom floor in a panic until they landed directly on Maya, standing quietly near the diamond case in her canvas apron. Richard breathed a massive sigh of relief and rushed forward, completely brushing past Gregory. Miss Sterling. Richard said, his voice tight with nervous respect as he offered a deep nod. My deepest apologies for our delay. Traffic in the financial district was completely frozen, and our legal team was finalizing the property transfer deeds upstairs. I hope you haven't been waiting long. Gregory froze in his tracks. His jaw dropped as he looked between his CEO and the woman in the apron. Mr. Vance, excuse me, but do you know this woman? She was just insisting on opening our top-tier display case without any appointment or financial verification. Richard turned to Gregory, his eyes flashing with sudden, furious anger. Gregory, be quiet this instant. I beg your pardon, Sir. Gregory stammered, his polished demeanor shattering into pure panic. I was simply following store security protocol regarding non-VIP visitors who do not meet our dress standards. She doesn't need your dress standards, Gregory. Richard snapped, his voice echoing across the silent marble showroom, causing junior staff and browsing customers to freeze. Miss Maya Sterling is the managing trustee of the Sterling Estate Group. As of 9 o'clock this morning, her estate completed the full acquisition of the Grand Arcade building, including the master commercial lease for this store. She is our new landlord, and her group owns the physical property you are standing on." The entire boutique dropped into absolute, stunned silence. Gregory stood frozen like a statue. The color drained from his face until he looked as white as the marble beneath his feet. His hands began to tremble as he looked at Maya's beige apron, then at her leather portfolio, and finally into her sharp, unwavering eyes. She owns the building," Gregory whispered, his voice cracking completely. That isn't possible. Lease transfers require 60 days of board notification. Miss Sterling specifically requested an unannounced walkthrough of the commercial spaces today, Richard Vance said grimly, looking at Gregory with deep shame. She wanted to see how ordinary walk-in visitors were treated when they entered our flagship boutique without a corporate escort or designer clothing. Maya stepped forward slowly, her hands resting calmly on her portfolio. She looked at Gregory, her voice low, steady, and devastatingly calm. "In less than 3 minutes, Mr. Hayes," Maya said, "you insulted my profession, ridiculed my attire, and tried to eject me from a building my family now owns. You didn't ask a single professional question. You simply assumed that because I wore a work apron, I was unworthy of basic human respect." Gregory swallowed hard, his throat dry as bone. "Miss Sterling, please. I had no idea who you were. If I had known your status, I would have had the entire VIP vault opened for your private viewing immediately. And that," Maya interrupted softly, "is the exact reason you are unfit to manage this floor. Respect isn't something you turn on and off based on someone's net worth. It is supposed to be the baseline standard for every person who steps through that door." That afternoon, Maya didn't raise her voice or cause a scene. She walked into the manager's office with Richard Vance and requested a complete 3-year review of all customer feedback, store incident reports, and staff performance logs. The audit revealed a long, troubling history. Over 35 documented complaints had been filed against Gregory Hayes by local shoppers, art students, and working-class families who had been insulted, ignored, or turned away simply because they didn't fit his personal definition of wealth. Before the week was out, Gregory Hayes was officially terminated from his position, with his industry credentials revoked across the parent network. The boutique group launched a complete overhaul of its staff training, establishing strict policies to ensure every visitor was greeted with equal dignity and care. People who rely on visual labels to measure human worth almost always fail to see the true power standing right in front of them. Never judge a person standing by the modesty of their clothes or the quiet way they move. You never know if the person standing in the simple canvas apron is the one who holds the keys to the entire building. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button and subscribe to Silent Empire for more stories of quiet strength, sudden turns, and ultimate accountability. See you in the next one.